Welcome back to Hello Friends. I'm your host, Brandy, where we keep it real, raw, and rooted in love and friendship.
And I am Kayla, your soft, while also sometimes very spicy best friend, who is just ready to get into the fills with all of you guys. And today we are getting really deep, probably deeper than I think I have with you on this podcast. So we're going to talk about soulmates and soul ties and our journeys along the way of that. So how do we love them? How do we let them go? And how do we make sure that we don't hold on to the trauma bond and miss our actual soulmate?
I think it's really easy to do that too.
Oh, it 100% is.
So first of all, we're going to go into how to debunk the fantasy of it not always being romantic and forever. Oftentimes when we meet somebody, we're like so swept up in their presence and who they are, and not realizing it might be a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
Us get bonded to them.
Yeah, I think sometimes actually the people that I felt all the immediate like big like feelings, like the butterflies, the nervous, all the big, huge things actually were the people that were just there to kind of teach me my lesson in something to help me get to the right person. And I know that I have found my soulmate like 10,000%. If you are ever in the same room as me and Tong, you feel that and see that between us, which is crazy because everyone initially tells me, oh, I would have never thought of you two together. I would have never thought to put y'all together because we are very different in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. But when we met, it wasn't that big feeling butterfly nervous. Like it was this calm, restorative, peace, safety. It was a whole different vibe. But I had to learn all the lessons first to get there. So there were a lot of those big feeling moments and butterflies and crazy things first.
I kind of had the same thing, but when I met Jeremy, and I had to walk up to him. So I saw him from a distance, and like for some reason, my heart was like, oh, hello. Yeah. You are the person I have been looking for.
You recognize something. It was weird. Them. It's like you just all of a sudden you're like, I've known you forever. Like I've known you forever.
And I had never felt that before. And I had dated, I literally had been engaged 3 times before I met him.
Oh my gosh.
I had been engaged 3 times. You too?
Yes.
And it never worked out. They were always like really bad engagements.
Yes.
We broke up awfully. But when I saw this person and I like was walking towards him, there was like this energy that kind of flowed between me and him. Yeah. And I could almost see it. And I had never in my life felt that. Ever. Yeah. And from our first date until fast forward 13 years, we've never been separated.
Wow.
Yeah. Like never broke up, never like had a break. And it's just been me and him.
We can't say the same.
That's okay.
Pretty early on into our relationship, when me and my husband met, I had just come out of a lot of traumatic things.
Yeah.
Like I had really gone through it. So at this point I had my childhood, my high school sweetheart and he is a soul tie that I know 100% that like we had to meet, we had to go through that time together. I think he's an incredible person. I wish him the best. He's actually the one person that even after all these years, even when Tong and I got together, it was, if he ever calls me and needs something, I'm doing it.
Aww.
And we were that way for each other even years after us breaking up and going our separate ways. And so it was always something that was like, I will always love him. Me and him are not meant to be together. We would not work out, but I will
Same.
always have that for him.
Yeah.
But it's hard when you go through that kind of breakup, and that was pretty traumatic. And then from there, I went into the relationship where I ended up becoming a young mom, and there was some items within that relationship that were also fairly traumatic. And then after that was another traumatic relationship, and then another traumatic relationship. And then I finally said, oh my gosh, I have to stop. Like, I have a young son. I've got to do better. So I took time for just me. And then that's when me and Tong end up moving from friends into more.
Yeah. I kind of sort of did the same thing. I was in a bunch of like really awful relationships. I had a soul tie with the first guy I was ever intimate with, and I had a really deep soul
Yeah.
tie to him. Um, we don't speak, but there's still that soul tie that's there, and I don't wish any ill will towards him or anything. And then my high school sweetheart was also my son's father. And so there was a really deep connection and soul tie with him, but it wasn't a good one.
Yeah.
And there's like this magnetic chemistry between us that would always like
Mm-hmm.
pull us back together. Um, and until I was able to like ask him to sever that tie, it had to be a mutual understanding for us to like split it. Um, but even now, because we share a human being, there's still a little bit of like a thread there. Um,
I mean, there has to be. You have
and
a
there
kid
is,
together.
but it's not like it was before
Before,
where we
yeah,
were
where
just
you're being
bound together.
pulled back together. And I felt that way too. So my high school sweetheart and I, we were together for about 3.5 years. He was everything I thought I wanted in a lifetime partner, truly. Like, I was engaged to this man my senior year of high school.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
I moved out into my first apartment with him right at my senior graduation.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
we were very in it together. The issue for us is that our traumas didn't play well together.
Got it.
We both had gone and seen things through childhood that we probably shouldn't have. And it brought a lot of toxicity into our relationship between the two of us. He is an amazing person. I will always feel that there is a connection there. But even after, and I had that same thing you were talking about of just, we were always pulled back together. Any time that, we would break up, like we broke up after that 3.5 years, spent time apart. Even after having Ryder, there was a time period where we tried to get back together again. Like, we always just felt like, but it's supposed to be us. Like, we
Yeah.
really felt that way. It took a lot for us to recognize, like, no, this soul tie is here to teach us a lot of lessons about ourselves, about each other, and about what we actually need on our checklist in a partner.
Yeah.
Because we really did think we checked that off for each other. But I'm telling you right now, even where I'm sitting today, like, we would have been toxic. We would have never grown into the people that we've grown into now, which is what the world deserved for us to grow into, had we tried to stay together. And it was almost turning into that trauma bond of like just constant want to go back, want to like always think of each other. Took a lot to finally break that.
I think mine was a little bit different because mine was 15 years off and on.
Yeah.
This was like half my life.
That's a long time period.
It is
yeah.
a very long time period. And I was a very damaged person when I met him, and he also was a very damaged person.
So your traumas
Trauma,
didn't
yeah,
play?
the traumas didn't play very
The
well
traumas
because,
didn't play.
and as I grew and evolved as a person and went to therapy and started talking things through and started to see things in a different perspective, he did not. And
Mm.
so I
Y'all
grew and
grew
evolved.
apart.
Yeah. And he did not. And he's still in that very bad, place as a human being.
Like still to this day.
To this day, at
Yeah.
almost 50. And I
Oh,
could,
which is so
yeah,
devastating
I
to
can recognize
see
it for what it is because when I love this person, I love
the
them
potential.
for what was there
Yeah.
and for what I saw. And
Yep.
and granted, from 15 to 30, that's a long time to be in someone's presence
Yep.
and to grow and to see them. And I grew a totally different direction than he did. And so by the time we were 30 years old and it got really ugly to where he didn't like me as a person because he essentially told me, I don't like the car you drive. I don't like your hair. I don't like your Valley Girl accent. And I said, oh, essentially, you
Okay.
don't like me.
Okay.
You don't like me. You're telling me you don't like me. I see it for what it is. I
You
recognize it.
also, you saw me grow. You saw me level up while you didn't.
Yep.
And that's why you can't like me.
But the weird thing is, those things didn't change. I was still from California when he met me. I still had the same Valley Girl accent when he met me. My hair texture didn't change. Those were like superficial things that he
Yeah.
was listing off because he didn't like the person I was evolving into. He wanted me to stay in that very broken place. And I recognized it. And it was like, okay, you don't want me to grow.
You get stuck in this like loop
Yeah.
of just, and that's how I felt eventually as well. Like when we ended up splitting after that 3.5 year mark, it was because we hit one of those loops and that loop shone very brightly right in front of everyone at a Halloween party.
Mm.
And thankfully for me, my sister was there. And my middle sister, as you know, you've heard me talk about her. There is something about mine and her connection that like, we're talking soul ties, soulmates. Like me and Derica, we were supposed to do this life together. We've done everything together from like little kids all the way up, like even just our bodies, like everything medically, everything. Like we've been so in sync our whole lives, even though we're 4 years apart. She was there that night. She saw that trauma loop happening.
Mm.
And we got into an argument and he had swung and hit the door. I was standing right in front of the front door. He hit the door right beside my head. And I lost my shit, of course.
Yeah.
While me and him are arguing and fighting, my sister goes into our bedroom, grabs one of those like plastic comforter things, the bags that your like bedding comes in. Yeah. She grabs that because it's just what she could find quickly. And she was stuffing my clothes and like things I would want into it. She takes it. She has her boyfriend at the time standing over like outside by our patio. She chunks my shit over it, goes and puts it in the car, pulls me outside when things have calmed down some. And she was like, you're not doing this anymore. I'm coming back. I'm getting you at 2 a.m.
At least you had a savior.
I had someone there, thankfully, to recognize it.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I would have recognized it yet. I would have stayed because at this point in time, I had tried to break up with him a couple times.
Oh, okay.
And every time it would just become such an emotional conversation. And I did just love him so much. And you feel that deep soul tie connection there that every time I would go right back into it?
We had broken up, gotten back together, broken up, gotten back together, broken up, gotten back together. Like, I got engaged to somebody else. He married somebody else, had a whole family. They broke up. As soon as he got divorced, we got back together. It was one of those things where we could not, for some reason, break that tie.
Yeah.
Until there was one particular night, he choked me. And I was just like, I am not going to end up like this.
I'm not doing this.
This is not what I signed up for. He had cheated on me, lied to me. Like there was a whole slew of things that had happened over the years. And because I thought that this was the love of my life, the person I'm supposed to be with.
You just have such a deep connection.
And it wasn't until like there was a light bulb that came on because he was cheating on me again. And he said, I don't know why you're mad. I'm just going to get tired of her and come back to you. And it was like, ding.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is like 15 years. It's the same bullshit over and over again. It was like, ding. Why are you putting up with this?
Yeah, I don't deserve to be the one that you can like consistently enough that you just come back to me.
Yeah,
I should be you should see me as so
much
incredible that no one else could catch your attention enough.
And it was like, you need to break this cycle.
Yep.
You have to stop. He is not going to stop.
No, he's not going to.
He just verbally told you.
This is
what it is.
This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
This is okay. And you should be okay with this. I've shown you this enough times. Why are you even surprised or upset about it? Just chill out. You know, I'll be back next month.
Yeah. And so it was, yeah. And so I physically removed myself from this person. And there was a lot of things that happened during the course of me trying to break this soul tie. And in order for me to do that, I had to like go no contact with them. I had to not let them know where I lived, which was hard because I had a child with this person. And so I wrote a letter that said, you have to let me go. And in turn, I will let you go. And he didn't respond, which is that's how I knew, okay,
we've come to an understanding.
We have to split this off. Now, granted, I've seen this person in public. I have. And when they see me and I see them, he walks the other direction. And it was a few years ago. I was in another city for Valentine's Day, and me and my husband were in a restaurant, and we were leaving. And as we were leaving, we you have to walk past tables. And I saw him, like literally, I saw him, and there was just like this like you see stuff on like TV and stuff, but there was like this force that came out of me. And was like, look right here.
Yeah, you're just all of a sudden like,
normally you don't pay attention to anybody in a restaurant, and it was just like, it was like venom came out, and it was like, you look right here. And I looked, and it was him.
It's almost like your body like recognizes their presence and like grabs your attention.
And I looked, and I had to walk past him, and I was just like, okay. And the other half of me was like, grab Jeremy's hand. And I was able to like walk out with like, okay. It was okay at that point. But there's such a strong soul tie there, and it's so toxic and it's so bad, because if I hadn't found Jeremy, I guarantee you to this day, it would have been another 15 years of us doing the same thing back and forth. And that's the bad part, because people don't realize that those are just toxic soul bonds and soul ties that you have, and you can't break them.
Well, and it's really hard sometimes when you do get into kind of those trauma bonds and trauma cycles in with people as well, that just I don't ever really run into
Yeah. No,
the
I
guy I'm
do.
referring to. He does talk to my family still sometimes, so I will hear about things that go on. His family, not all of his family, but his sisters and I sometimes would still chat from time to time over the years. I think for me, we had that similar thing of like, we had to come to this understanding
Yeah.
that like, listen, we can love and care about each other as much as we want, but it's got to be from afar
Yeah.
because we're not what each other actually needs in life. And just being okay with that and saying like, I just want you to be happy. And like, I hope you find that. And, you know, I'm here if you do need something. I know like at one point I was on bad relationship number 3, I think. After him, and he had reached out and said like, hey, I'm so sorry, but my apartment lease had come up. I tried to find the place I'm moving in, like the timeline didn't match up and he didn't have anywhere to go for like 5 days. And I said, I'm not at my apartment this week. Like
You can stay
I'm with
there.
there,
Yeah.
like you and your dog Zeus, like y'all go. Like go stay at my place. Like it's totally fine. I'll leave the key, like whatever. But we had already come to that understanding at that point that like we wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And so like I really, honest to God, I think even if I had not found my soulmate and my husband, I don't think that I would still be in that cycle with him.
We would because unfortunately that soul tie created a person.
Yeah.
And so that bond
Y'all always have
flows
that.
through that person. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's like a tug of war my son feels between the
y'all.
2 of us. And that's really unfortunate because he's innocent in the whole thing. And at one point he even said, why can't my parents get along?
Oh, that's devastating.
And I said, I have no problem with your father. It is just a really bad situation that we've put ourselves in.
Yeah, we're just not good
We're
together. We're not compatible.
And it's sad because there's a lot of love I have for that person. For one, because I grew up with them. And so I know things about him from his past that a lot of people don't. And I saw a lot of good potential in this person. And then they also gave me my kid.
Yeah.
And I adore my son. And so, there's a lot of like internal struggle in that soul tie. But in me breaking that tie as much as I could and like trying to be on a self-discovery journey, I opened up my whole world to find my actual soulmate.
Which I think that's the thing, right? Like you have to recognize that you're in this cycle, that you're in this situation, that you have this tie, whether it's good or bad,
Mm-hmm.
and then saying, okay, I need to self-discover.
Yeah.
I need to pull my mirror up for a second. I need to figure out what do I need to do and what do I need to see to help me move on from that connection.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times too, a lot of that tie and that magnetic pull back to each other, a lot of that too is stuff that we need to be reflecting on to figure out and really dig in on our side and say, why do I keep going back? Why do I keep being pulled to this when I know the outcome of it? Yeah. Right. And like a lot of getting to the place of being able to break it to find your soulmate is doing a lot of that inner work, taking that moment and saying like, I have to look at myself and find out why I keep accepting this because I know I deserve more.
I mean, I know a lot of the reason why I kept trying to force that relationship to stick together. For one, I was raised in a super religious household that, like, if you have a child with somebody, you probably should stick with that person, so that your kiddo could have the family that created it. Didn't matter if the family was, like, toxic and bad and all
Oh,
those
I
things.
rocked my family's world
Yeah.
because my next one after that is when I got pregnant. We never got engaged. He is not one of my
Yeah.
prior
Mine was,
engagements.
and so I kept going back, and I kept going back, and I kept going back. And it wasn't until I was able to, because when I broke contact with him and all of his family. And
Sometimes you have to, or
and
you won't be able to ever go your separate
and I
ways.
moved out the city.
Yeah.
Um, and so in doing that, I was on this journey of self-discovery, trying to figure out who Brandy was. Because at this point, I'm early 30s and I like have a lot going for me. I owned my own home. I had my own career. I had 2 little boys I was trying to raise. And so it was like I had spent most of my youth going back and forth to this person
Yeah.
who now I realize did not love me for me. And I have to figure out who me is.
Yeah. Right. You have to figure out who you are. You've
Yeah.
lost when you've gone and done that and that back and forth and like these really deep connections that end up being really toxic. You lose yourself in those. Like, I don't think that we talk about that enough with each other and really like shine that light
Yeah,
into
on
that
who
dark
you are.
space that like, yeah, you lose yourself in these bad relationships. And when you're coming out, it is a rebuild. It is a rediscovery on who you are and what you want. And even a lot of times what you stand for.
Yeah.
Like, it's intense.
I was really into fitness at that time, and I was like really into like rebuilding my body because I did not want to come off as weak. And so I stayed in the gym a lot. I stayed in the gym constantly because I was trying to rebrand who Brandy was and figure out who she was. And in the whole
Just
time,
find your way back to yourself.
And I would run. I would run like 5-6 miles every few days. And I would just think about what it is I wanted and try to manifest that.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I kind of came up with a plan. It was like, if I am to get in a serious relationship again, these are the things that I want. These are the things that I really want. These are non-negotiables. This is how it has to happen. And I got in a relationship with somebody for about a year and a half. And I wasn't in love with this person. I told them that I loved them, but it wasn't like I was in love with them. He was probably in love with me. Because I had put that light back on me, but I wasn't in love with him. And I knew that. And so when we split, I was really hurt. And it wasn't until a friend said, but you told him, mind you, I told him this on vacation too. You are not my soulmate because we want different things. And I probably like, hindsight is 2020. Like looking back, that probably like killed him on the inside, which is what ultimately ended to our relationship. But I was honest enough with myself to say, we want different things. You are not my soulmate.
But you have to get to that place to find the right fit, right?
Yeah.
So like by time Tong and I, when we first met, I was going through the end of the last bad relationship, which was probably, it wasn't the worst one, but it definitely was the one where I was the worst.
Oh.
Like it all of a sudden was the one where like the tables had turned and I was the one that was being toxic. Like I was the one that like couldn't, right? Yeah. So then I had taken that year to myself, but Tong and I were friends. We worked together at this point. So that's why I'm saying, like, for me, it was a lot of safety and security when we first met. But there was always, there was always this pull between us. Like, we just always were talking. We were always like, we worked together. We worked in different departments. He worked in transportation. I worked in billing. They had nothing to do with each other. Literally nothing. I billed our, like, based off of the products that were getting processed through that facility, had nothing to do with his department at all. I mean, literally nothing. But we talked all day long on IM. Like, we were always talking. There was always that pull, that invisible thread to each other that just kept getting, like, tighter and tighter as we were going along. Had I not taken that year between, I don't know that we could have gotten to where we're at now, or that I would have realized what he was supposed to be for me. Because I was sitting there going through all of that, having all these, like, bad cycles and bad trauma loops and things where I'm just having all these deep connections, but they're all chaos. They're all physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. There's always something bad happening. Tong was this safe place where, as we were transitioning and becoming friends, we were constantly being pulled to each other, constantly just getting closer and closer. It was that moment for me that I realized everything prior to this
was leading up to that.
It was just leading me to get to this place. But by time, keep in mind, we were friends for 3.5 years before we got together, before we even tried to get together. That 3.5 years, what do you think I was doing?
Working on yourself.
I'm looking internal. I'm figuring out things on myself. I'm starting to shine that light back to me. That light bulb doesn't click into place in his head of, like, oh, this is a thing. This can be a thing. Till my light is back on me. And when I said we can't say the same, we did split. We split because I put the light back on me. We get together. What do?
Take it off.
I take it off. I put the light back on him. I move it to him because I'm like, this is what I do in a relationship, right?
But you can't.
This is what I've always done. And that is why we took a break, because he was like, I can't watch you do this. Like, I feel you going into this bad place again. I feel you, like, being more irritable. I feel you losing yourself. Like, you need to focus on you. And if I'm here, you won't. So we took a few months apart. And it wasn't like until we came back together after that I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Like, shine that light on me. That's okay. Like, my soulmate wants to see me be the best version of me that I can be.
And I don't think people realize that your soulmate is not someone that will deplete you, but they are someone that will fill you up.
Yeah.
Because, even though Jeremy and I have never, like, split, we did have, like, a really rough patch at one point to where,
which a lot of couples do.
It was bad, and he was the person that said, you need to talk to a therapist, because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to stick around for this version of you.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And
and that's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard because you have to listen, right? They're telling you something and it hurts like hell. They're hitting you.
And
like,
part of me was
to
just
the gut.
mad, was like, you know what? Screw you and F you. But on the like back end, I was like, no, he's right.
Yeah. Like, something is in your head saying, like, hold on, put your mirror up for a second.
And look at what's going on.
He's actually spitting a fact at you that you need to look at.
And so I did. I went and I was like, are you happy now? They said I was broken. And he was like, no, I'm not happy.
No, that's the exact opposite of what I want.
No, this is not what I want for you or us. I need you to get better so that we can be back in that place that we started. and it worked. I was very resentful at first because I was like, I don't need this, and I'm just going through the motion, and it's just hard. And he's like, no,
Yeah,
like
it's
no,
hard.
I'm about to bounce because you are making our marriage really uncomfortable. It is
Yeah.
uncomfortable being here with you, and this is not the person I signed up to be with.
But I think that's the other thing that people don't realize about your soulmate too. It is not supposed to be peaches and cream. We ain't
Oh,
supposed
no.
to be out here dancing and
No.
smiling and laughing and having a good time all the time. You are sitting there having these uncomfortable conversations. You are the one who says, you're not looking in the mirror. Here is the mirror. Look at it. You are the ones telling each other these hard, difficult things that nobody else is going to be able to say to you. You're having a hard conversation about it and actually hearing them versus
being defensive.
Throwing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because your soulmate, you don't want to be defensive with because that is your person.
Which is something that, yeah. Yep.
That is your
because
person.
I am someone who I can get very defensive very quick a lot of times. With Tong, it is just a natural, like, I will defend myself against him. Don't get me wrong. I can be defensive, but it's never me and him against each other.
Yeah.
It's me and him on the same team trying to find a resolution in a middle ground against whatever issue or whatever the problem is.
I mean, I have gotten very defensive because, unfortunately, that is my personality. I am a very defensive person because it is, no, you are wrong. And my mate is not like that. My mate is a very calm as to my flame.
Mm-hmm. The yin to the yang.
Yes. Now, granted, in previous relationships, at one point, I took an engagement ring off, threw it at somebody. I said, and go home and fuck your mama. Yeah, because I'm that girl. Like, you have crossed the line. You have realized you've crossed that line. Get your shit
and get the fuck out of here.
Go home and fuck your mama. Because this is over. And granted, that hurt that person incredibly. Like, to this day.
I'm sure their mama didn't love it either.
She didn't. And his mama wrote me a letter and she was like, I don't know what I did to you.
You're like, nothing but your son. You raised a bitch.
Yeah. You ain't did shit but your son.
But raised a bitch. That's it.
So I've learned that is not the way to behave. But the only reason why I learned that is because I did meet my soulmate. I met that person who's able to like kind of calm that peace in me. I would never in a million years say that to my husband, ever. Granted, I've said some things to hurt him and I've had to apologize. But that kind of stuff I would never say to him, ever. And it was, at least for me, when I met Jeremy, I stood him up 3 times before we went on our first date.
Savage.
It was out of fear because I talked to this person. We met online. I talked to him for about 3 months on the phone and back and forth, like texting and stuff. And we even played words with friends. Like, we were building that friendship and that relationship. But I stood him up because he was just too nice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there is no, I was like, you got a baby mama, a girlfriend, something is amiss. Something is up. You cannot be this nice.
Yeah.
Why are you this nice? And he was like, I assure you, I don't have any of those things. I'm like, all right. So when I finally did meet him, I was just like, my being was drawn to him. And he was an actual gentleman. And I'm like, where they make you at? They don't make folks like you no more.
But I think a lot of men act very differently when they find the person that they feel that connection with as well.
like, who are you? This isn't, he didn't kiss me on our first date. He opened every door for me. He was just very nice. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. I'm like, what? I called my friends. I was like, something's wrong. And
No,
they were like, what's wrong? I was like, first date was just too cool.
Something's off. He's hiding
like,
something.
I was like, it was too cool. It was too cool. And they were like, what do you mean? I was like, it wasn't awkward. There was no like missed any. I was like, it was just cool. And they were like, all right. And are you going to see him again? Well, yeah, I invited him. I wanted to see how he would do with my very diverse background and friends.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, if anything, that's going to throw him for a loop.
Yeah.
And so I invited him to, we called it family dinner. And it was my gay friends and my lesbian friends and me, and we're all different backgrounds. We would get together and we would have dinner and we would watch one of our favorite shows. And I was like, that's going to get him. He's going to feel awkward in this situation. And nope. He was just so freaking cool. And my friends are pulling me to the side and they're like, this is the one. I'm like, I just met his ass. And
but people know, people realize there's a lot of things that you said that like, I want to touch on. For one, you said that y'all were building that friendship.
We were.
I think that is something that a lot of people hear and say, but not a lot of people actually do. Build a friendship. The person that you are going to do your life with, they need to be one of your best friends. And it was something that my mom and dad, they divorced after 24 years of being together. And it was something my mom had said to me, and she was like, marry your best friend. Like whatever you do, pick your best friend, because it's so important that like you have that friendship to get through all of the things you have to get through together in life.
Yeah.
And that was something that like you mentioned that I know is so true for me and Tong, is that we are best friends. Like that is the person that I tell everything to. I love him so much. I truly feel like it's our friendship first and our marriage second. And then the other thing you had mentioned was taking him to different places to test it out. I think that is something that my mom also said to me that a lot of people don't do enough of when they first start dating someone. My mom said you need to make sure that when you're dating someone, you're putting them in every different type of scenario, because you need to know and understand who they are in all aspects of life to be able to understand if that's someone that you're going to actually be compatible with. If you love to go out and go dancing, but then you go out dancing with him and he can't handle his liquor and then he gets into fights and that's not something you want to deal with, in the long run, y'all going to have some issues because you can't go do the thing you want to go do. So you're saying, okay, I'm going to put you in this thing that a pressure cooker. I'm going to put you in with all my friends that I know are going to roast you, or I know is going to do whatever, and see if you can hang and handle. And that is so important to make sure that you're testing them through the different things, because you're the person who's actually supposed to be your life partner and your soulmate in this life's journey. They're going to just fit.
Yeah.
They're just going to fit in the different places, even places you don't think they're going to fit.
I really didn't realize that's what I was doing. But for some reason, it was like, see if he can hang. See if he can hang. And for a long time, I didn't say he was my best friend. In fact, he told me I was his best friend. I said, we're not friends. I was like, you're my boyfriend. There's totally different. And it wasn't until I said it, I realized I'm like, no, he's like your best friend in the world. Like he's walking through fire with you.
Yeah.
Like he sees you at your absolute worst. He sees you at your absolute best. This is like your person. This is like you've been stamped on him and vice versa. You've imprinted on each other. This is your best friend, period.
Yeah. And I I think that that's something that's what life's about. Life is about going through this journey of ups and downs and the in-betweens and finding those connections where you're like, this is my person.
Yeah.
Because it's not just in the relationship that ends up being like your soulmate in that like romantic life partner
feeling.
way too. Because in the reality of it, I feel like I'm finally always said like my 30s is going to be where I hit my prime. And I do feel like I'm having that kind of shift. And I'm realizing now that all the people I have kind of gathered along my journey of life so far are those deep connections, those soul ties, those people that I know I can show up 100% who I am. If I'm having a bad day, I can say it. I don't have to lie. I don't have to put on some facade, some mask in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gathered those connections and deep ties all the way through from friendships into my marriage as well. It's all the different people that you see, you recognize. Like when you and I met, it was kind of that thing too of just like, I recognized you.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because we don't have a lot in, like, we wouldn't have met had it not been that. We don't overlap anywhere.
Nope.
We don't do a lot of the same things, but just that deep connection and realizing and then saying, cool, these are my people that are going to show up in every chapter of my life, in my highs, my lows, my goods, my bads. They're the ones that are going to be there. Friendships and your soulmate. Like you've got to find those deep connections in both sides of your life.
But you can have friends that are soulmates too, because, granted, your soul is very deep and very vast, and it changes and evolves so many times. And there's parts of you that at some point I had met Jeremy in my life, but I had a best friend who she was my soulmate in my journey of life. Because if there is something going on at my kids' school or Christmas or like anything, birthdays, she was right there with me. We were like a married couple. And it was weird because people thought we were a lesbian couple or something. No.
Yep.
This is just my soulmate on this end. She's the person that is here for me. And we grew and we moved together. And she's still there. Granted, life has split a little bit because now I have found my romantic soulmate, that partner who is like all encompassing. He's like the star in my universe. But she's still there.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. So I have a friend that I met in high school. Me and her, it was that same thing. Like we met in one of our classes, and just as soon as we had like sat down first day, looked at each other, was like, we about to be friends. Like we about to wild out together for sure. And we did. And we have grown together through so many different aspects of life. She is someone that I know 100%. I mean, like I said, you were checking on me all week because I was like not good. I'm checking on her because she was being radio silent, which is like
my best
not
friend did
like
the same
her.
Thing. So my best friend was messaging me. I was messaging back. I was messaging you, and you were messaging her. So it was just kind of like a loop.
Everybody just trying to check in on each other. She is someone that if Tong were to be like, listen, I just can't deal with you and your friend, I've been like, then you ain't it, bitch. Get out. And the thing is that I love Tong. Like, I think he is the best thing ever. But I cannot envision my life, nor have I been able to since I met her, cannot envision my life without Lonnie. She is the person that we always call each other like the Meredith and Christina to each other. Like that's my girl. Like at the end of the day, I am so connected to her. I love Tong to pieces. I think it is more crucial for me to have that friendship and that tie to her than it was to him. She was there before. She was there during the trauma. She was there during it all. She's seen it all. That's not a side he was ever able to witness.
Well, Trisha, when I met Jeremy, I didn't like other boyfriends and stuff. I really could care less if she met him or not. Like it was whatever. But when I met Jeremy, I said, I think I found the one and I need you to meet him. And she's like, okay. And we like went to dinner. We sat on the patio one night and, you've met my husband. Most people have not met him, but he is radio silent. And so you're not getting much from him. You're not. And when you meet him, you're like, you're married to Brandy? How? But there's like this vibe that we have between each other that if you've ever been around us, you can feel it. And so when she met him, she said, are you ready for this? And he said, well, what do you mean? She was like, well, just don't make her mad. And he goes, oh, she said, her cold shoulder can sink the Titanic. And I looked at her and I'm like, damn, Trisha, like for real. She's like, I want him to know.
Just letting him know.
Like there is a piece of you that if you make you mad, there ain't no coming back. Like that sink it's gonna sink and you are not gonna recover. And so he goes, I think I can do it. And she's like, I'm just letting you know now that like this one, this is different one.
She don't play that.
This is not like the others. This is a different one. And he goes, I think I can do it. And she's like, all right, if you're up to it, then I bless you.
Yeah. We had such a different experience on my side because, so I said Tong and I had met at work, and at that same job, my boss at the time was like, hey, like I had moved from being the receptionist into the billing admin role. And he's like, we need a new receptionist. Do you have any friends? And I was like, I ain't got no friends. I ain't got nobody looking for work. And then all of a sudden my best friend texts me and she's like, really trying to find a new job, da, 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 da. So I was like, okay, I lied, Brian. I do have a friend and she is looking for work. So those first years where Tong and I were just friends, we were all friends.
Oh, so y'all were all together.
We were all together because me and her worked the front office together. And then he worked on in the back transportation office. So he would come up each day to say bye to us and like chat and whatever. So we were all friends. That's why the first time we tried to hang out outside of work, he was like, hey, let's go to a Ranger game. Well, me and my best friend were also roommates.
Oh, so she had to go. Oh,
we're roommates. We work together. We are all three together all the time. She helped me a lot with my son. So he's texting me. He's like, hey, I want to go to the Rangers game. I'm talking to my mom and I'm like, hey, do you mind watching Ryder so I can go to this game? My best friend's like, oh, I want to go. And I'm like, yeah, all right, let's do this. Well, when we get there, now at this time, I kind of have some feelings and some vibes, but like he's not giving anything away. We're walking down to get seated and everyone pushes me to start the line, but then he doesn't fall in behind me. Okay, well, if I'm starting the line and I'm going to be the first one to turn in and you're not behind me, you ain't sit next to me. Like, that's how that works. But still to this day, he'll talk about how like, oh, even the first time we went out, you had your best friend sitting next to me, not you.
Aww.
Like, it was always the three of us.
Yeah.
So I think he just knew already, like,
it was going to be three in the relationship.
Yeah. Like, if I don't accept this combo package, I don't get the other half. But it's crazy just in the sense of you can have these deep connections and these deep ties that are almost just like threads coming out of you from all directions that are just like hooked into these different people and into these different relationships that like help support and carry you through like life and the ups and downs of it.
But I think that's what isn't that what you need though? You don't, because if you try to go it alone and you don't have like the rest of your octopus arms, I mean, you don't really survive.
Yeah.
You just don't. Um, and I know there's a lot of people that, oh, I don't need anybody. I don't need anybody. But we as human beings, we all need someone, and we all crave to have that person, like our
Mhm.
person that is there with us. Um, and whether it be like a really bad soul tie to someone to where you're bound by this person or your soulmate, you crave those connections, period, point blank.
Yeah. We we don't talk about that very often though. Like we don't talk about how like core rooted it is to have that need for community
Yeah.
and that need for others. We, especially as the world increases in pace, we've tried very hard to be more independent and I don't need anyone and I'm good. I got it. I don't got it anymore. I'm telling you, I don't got it. When Ryder was little, I was a single mom, 19, with a baby, figuring it out, crushing it, killing it somehow. Don't know how. Don't ask me now. Because now I can't do any of this crap by myself.
Oh, you're not the only one.
You just all of a sudden, like it evolves, it changes, but you have to have that support. When you don't have the support, like you're going to fall in life. When you're down in your lows, who is there to help you get back on the ride and get on the high?
Yeah. I want to talk about a little bit how this episode came to be, because I was actually talking to a now friend who's also a creative, who she's so, I want to say, infatuated with this person, and she feels like this is her soulmate deeply.
Mm-hmm.
Deeply, she feels that this is her soulmate. And while she's talking to me about it, I realize this is not your soulmate. This is probably a soul tie.
Is
This
this
is a
someone you're
tie.
here to learn a lesson with?
This is someone you're here to learn a lesson with. And she, because I asked her, I said, well, if you've broken up and you've had to do the work on yourself, and then you go back to this person, and I said, maybe invite them out to coffee. And she's told me, she said, he reiterated, not even if Jesus himself was pouring. And I was like, oh damn. And listening to the story, I'm like, okay. And so I ask a couple more questions because I want to know. And finally, I know a lot of people don't believe in astronomical signs, but I said, what sign is this person? And she said, oh, he's a Leo. And I was like, oh, bitch, you done. And she said, why do you say that? I said, oh, I'm a Leo.
Well, what is she?
I forgot what she is. But it is not a sign that Leos are
Is
compatible
compatible.
with.
Okay.
But what she said was, oh, he's blocked me on everything. And I was like, a Leo blocked you
A,
on some shit? A
a
Leo.
Leo will.
Oh, you dead to them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and she goes, why would you say that? I said, because I am one. I know what those people are capable of. And I said, the only way that you can ever get back into good graces with someone who is like me, like-minded. But this is a male version of me. So they're a little bit different because they have a little bit more give than the female. I said, you're going to have to ignore this person. And she said, well, why would I ever do that? I said, I'm telling you, we don't like to be ignored. Um, and so in like talking to her about this and like going down this soul tie and soulmate like path, I said, in meeting your person, there is a lot of truth into what the moon and the sun say when people are born. Whether or not you believe it or not, we have characteristics within ourselves. And in just me being the person that I am, I am a very deep sun sign, and knowing that, and I'm married to a Cancer.
The best of us.
You are a Cancer, my best friend is a Cancer, and so some of us mesh well with we play well with others. Um,
Yeah, Cancer and Leos play well together.
yeah, we're apparently we're like soulmate signs.
Yeah, well, it's crazy because when I consider people in my life, right? The sister I said earlier that like you will never see me and my sister separate, like me and her,
Mhm.
I don't care what she does. I am backing it up, okay? She's a Leo.
Oh, yep, see?
My best friend that I was referring to, Lonnie, she's a Leo. You that I knew right away, you're a Leo. Tong and I are actually both Cancers, which a lot of people listen, you either go one way or the other with it. You either think that we are going to absolutely not work at all because we're too emotional, or you realize that's exactly why we do work, because we can recognize that in each other and help. We just understand.
Yeah, because
right?
y'all
Like
hide
we
emotion
get
real
it.
well.
Well, and that's the thing. We can see through each other's
Yeah.
stuff because we both do things. Like we just get each other in that sense. But
So-
I do think that that's crazy, because I feel like if she's sitting here saying like, I feel like this person is my soulmate, and he's like blocking you on everything, he's telling you like, there's a message, and I feel like it just keeps coming up in my life recently. When someone's telling you, listen to them.
So, my favorite quote in the world is from Dr. Angelou, and it is, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
Yeah.
If they tell you, this is how I feel, you should believe them and understand this is what they're saying. And it's really hard for us to do that, only because we want to think that they're saying something else. But that's not it. Like, I have another girlfriend and I'm like, hey, listen to the subtext. They're telling you.
But perception's reality, and perception is something that you can
You can bend it.
adjust and tweak, and
It's like the multiverse. Well, maybe it means this or maybe it means that. And it's all in how you perceive it. But if you really listen to what people say, you need to believe them when they say
or
it.
what they do.
Yeah,
Like a
'cause
lot
your
of times you have people out here who are saying all the right things and it's still wrong.
Yeah.
You're watching the actions. Like, are their actions like, what is it showing you? And yeah, in this situation, like, it breaks my heart because there is a lot of times, like we talked about earlier in the episode, that we believe these trauma bonds, or we believe these soul ties and these deep connections with people that are toxic or not actually here to be our real soulmate.
Yep.
It's so easy to confuse the two. It's very hard to recognize. And a lot of the time it is just remembering to hold the mirror, look at yourself within that connection and within that relationship, and realizing what it is you really need. Is this fulfilling that or not? Is this something I have to cut? Do I have to release this tie to find the right one?
Yeah.
And then relying on the ties that are good for you within your friendships and other areas while you make that journey through self back to finding your actual soulmate versus the person who's just there.
And I think if you just take a step back sometimes and figure out who you are, you don't have to be in a relationship to get to be in a relationship. I wasn't looking for a relationship when I met my husband. I really wasn't. And I ended up in this wonderful, like, whirlwind of a fairy tale Disney adventure. I did. And I was not looking for that at all. So if you just take a step back and kind of dig deep and figure out who you are and just walk your path until you meet your person, they'll bump into you.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. A lot of times we force things, and when you force stuff, it never happens. So if you just walk your path and walk your journey, they'll come along. They really will.
It's it's who you are and who you want to be. I think a lot of times we don't put that aspect into it. We try very hard just to get back to current self, which is
Yeah.
always such a struggle. But I do think it's really important, especially when you are looking for that romantic, like life partner soulmate,
Mhm.
that you are also considering what it is that you want long term
Yeah.
too, and who you want to end up being, to make sure that the person that is going to be standing by your side is going to be someone who supports and encourages you and lifts you up to being that higher version of yourself, to become who you're wanting to be.
Yeah.
So just as much as it is to look at who you are right now, what you're needing right now, but also who do I want to be? Who's going to help me get there? When it is who you're putting in your life, your friends, your relationship, it's got to be people who are going to help lift you to your best self to get to where you want as well.
And before we close, I want to remind everybody that your soulmate does not have to be the same color as you. They don't
No.
have to be 6 feet tall. They can be totally opposite than who you are.
Do you listen to Jelly Roll at all?
A little bit.
Do you know anything about his story with him and his wife, Bunny?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I followed them fairly closely. I don't follow a lot of couples. There are a couple that I follow pretty closely because it reminds me so much of Tong and I.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Neither one of them is each other's usual physical type that they would be with at all. When they saw each other, they felt that flow of energy between each other. They describe it how I describe it, in the sense of like you just recognize them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so yeah, Tong and I too, like we're not. If you look at our history, we're not what we had dated prior either. It's not about that. It's about underneath that physical appearance, underneath that body, the soul itself, and
Yeah.
like recognizing that, thinking that is what's beautiful.
And when you find it, you hold on to it. You don't dismiss it, because I did have a conversation with one person and I said, maybe you're putting too much emphasis on the race of the person you're looking for, because it
Yeah.
is not always about that. And I want to bring people's attention to that. Your soulmate didn't they don't necessarily have to be the same color as you. They don't have to be the same height as you. They don't have to have the same background as you or the same education as you. They have to match your soul, and it is what your
Hmm.
soul needs. So please be very mindful of that when you go out into the world and you try to connect with other people, because your soulmate
Yeah.
might walk past you one day and you not even realize it.
Yeah. I mean, we're different ethnicity, culture, religion,
Yeah.
all of it.
Me and mine too.
All of it.
In fact, I said I never wanted to date an engineer because my dad was an engineer. I married an engineer. Totally married one.
It happens. I think your person always ends up surprising you. So just keep that in mind, follow your gut, listen to your connections, and try to stay as true to yourself through it as you can.
Yeah. So this week, I want to challenge everybody to kind of sit with yourself for at least 5 minutes and kind of dig deep and to see what it is you want in a partner, where you have those soul ties. If you have a soul tie with somebody, figure out why you have a soul tie with them, whether it's a healthy one or a toxic one, and try to release it so that you can move on to find your soulmate.
Yep.
So I think that is our episode, guys.
Yep.
Make sure you follow us on all social media. Oh, we're also on Apple Podcasts now. Hey.
Hey.
You can hit us up on www.hella-friends.com. You can leave us a comment. You can message us on YouTube. You can get in touch with us on all social media if you have a topic you'd like us to discuss. And remember,
Life be lifin'
sometimes.